welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs, and today it's a very important episode because Egypt is celebrating or commemorating 100 years of Tutankhamun. Of course, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities they are launching a huge campaign over social media starting from October 6th and for a whole month. Of course, it is commemorating 100 years over the most important discoveries or the archaeological discoveries worldwide, and of course on top of them is the pharaohs. Today we're going to be talking about Tutankhamun and celebrating or commemorating 100 years of Tutankhamun, and also other important antiquities that we possess. Of course, most of them are located here in Egypt. I mean, it is nothing but ancient Egyptians or ancient pharaohs antiquities that we possess here and we commemorate together. We're very delighted to be having with us here the heritage researcher and historian Rana Ehab. Good evening, Rana. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, and I always appreciate it to be here actually.
Of course, it's our pleasure to have you always. Let us first talk about commemorating 100 years of Tutankhamun. How would you like to start? I mean, it's a huge event.
Actually, it's a huge event related to the King Tutankhamun himself and related to Egypt in general. And actually, this year is special because we commemorate more than one important event in Egyptology field, and this is focusing in how ancient Egyptian actually is playing a great role during the history before thousands of years ago. When we are talking about them till this moment, that means they left a legacy for their child in general that we still talking about that till today. And if we are talking about the King Tutankhamun, why it's famous that much? Why especially King Tutankhamun? Why not other king? The story, it's started from the discovery of his tomb, because we considered his tomb is the only tomb from the ancient Egyptian time. It's closed. So we found all the treasure related to him. Until this moment, archaeologists mentioned Tutankhamun in general and his tomb and his mummy as a mystery. We discovered a lot. We have a lot of technology now to understand a lot of things, but till this moment, we cannot understand Tutankhamun well. Hundreds of books, thousands of objects, and I think we still need to search more about him. So if we are talking about who is Tutankhamun in the beginning, Tutankhamun, his father is a very famous and known king in Egypt also. He is Akhenaten. Akhenaten is the father of King Tutankhamun, and his mother actually is one of his primary wife, and she called Kia. So from this point we can know or understand a lot of things that we found in inscriptions in a place in Egypt that mentioned as the name of Tutankhamun as Tutankhatun. It's not Amun, which is the one famous in that time. So this is dating back when King Akhenaten changed the religion, changed the art, it changed a lot of things here in Egypt. And after a while, from the reign of Tutankhamun, it's back again to Amun, and they moved the title of Atun, which is mean not all the people accepting the changing of King Akhenaten that actually in Egypt. They didn't like it, and they want to kind of control of Egypt, especially the people who's working in the temples and in the tombs and those places. So they want to take a lead of Egypt. For that reason, they do a kind of pressure on Tutankhamun to change his name from Tutankhatun to Tutankhamun. And what also mystery about King Tutankhamun, that he ruled Egypt when he has 7 years old. So we called him.
He ruled Egypt when he was 7 years old?
Yes, exactly. And he actually died between 16 and 17 years old.
It was a mystery, that, right?
Yes. Why he died early? what happened, why this king ruled Egypt for a short time, and he actually achieved a lot of things, and we have a luxury in his tomb that we didn't found in any other tomb of our Greek kings. So here is the important point. That's because the political reason, this is economical reason, or what? For that reason, we have still a mystery about the King Tutankhamun in general. When we search did Akhenaten have another sons? Actually, we didn't discover any sons for King Akhenaten except Tutankhamun till this moment, which is mean. And also his mother Kia was actually disappeared from a time when he ruled Egypt, and before that Nefertiti, the wife of Akhenaten, take the lead of Egypt also in that time. So that also played a kind of mystery in our history and about the King Tutankhamun in general. And also, if we want to talk about his tomb located in the Valley of the Kings, and the story of discovery, we know the famous archaeologist who discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, Howard Carter, but I want to spot the light on the Egyptian worker in the time, because if we're talking about the effort of Howard Carter, who discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, we will back to the Egyptian worker. They know a lot of things, and this is the real excavator for the tomb of Tutankhamun. We have a story we always mention that we see a lot of photos about a child who wear a necklace for King Tutankhamun. This child actually who is the one who discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, who is the one lead Howard Carter to this place. One day in the desert, he want to change the place. They putting the pottery of water, they preserve their water in. And this pottery is actually pointed, so they put on the sand, and he want to change the place. Once he changed the place, he found a kind of rock, and he's still digging what's this kind of rock to remove it, and they start to find the mastaba, and this is the place and the ladder and the stairs leading to the tomb of Tutankhamun.
So it came by coincidence?
Yes.
What was the start?
Howard Carter actually doing a kind of excavating in the Valley of the Kings in general. And he actually suddenly discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, which is near to the tomb of one of the Ramesside.
How first was he discovering this particular tomb of Tutankhamun?
Actually, this is dating back to this child who's called Abdul Rasul, this child, and then Howard Carter start to excavate the place, start to digging it in 1922. So after that, the process of discovering any kind of tombs actually take a lot of time, because we cannot open the door of any tomb or any tomb quickly, because this place is closed from long time ago. So maybe inside it we have a different environment, which is sometimes causes bad things in a human's body when we open it suddenly. So this is not true. So the process of excavation takes a lot of time. But Howard Carter mentioned in the book he wrote that when his friends waiting him outside, and he asked him, if you find something inside, Howard Carter answered him, didn't answer for 2 or 3 minutes. So they disappointed, and they said, okay, there is nothing here.
He didn't want to mention that he discovered something huge.
Yes, because he just, what is that? All of this legacy, he mentioned that I saw a lot of things, thousands of things I cannot mention, especially the golden things who took the eye from the first sight. And Howard Carter in that time, he didn't answer for 2 or 3 minutes, and he said, we find a treasure. actually, and he mentioned that his scandal is off and returned back from the air which is coming out from the burial chamber of the king Tutankhamun. From this moment, actually, a lot of things changed in the history, of Egypt. Actually changed in our heritage till this moment. So when people ask anyone who didn't know a lot about Egypt, he could mention the pyramids and the golden mask of King Tutankhamun. Here is the start point of the people, is the start to knowing more about the ancient Egyptian time. So after a lot of this, they inside the tomb of King Tutankhamun, we found thousands of objects. Actually, it's related to only King
So he found the
Tutankhamun.
tomb, he found his objects around him, I mean his belongings.
Yes, actually, the
Something
tomb,
was missing, I mean.
this tomb is
I mean,
the only.
anything was stolen by thieves back then before they
Actually,
discovered?
no, because this is the only tomb in the ancient Egyptian time we discovered it closed from the time of the king. How we know that? Because in the tradition, when they close the door, they doing a kind of rope around the door, and they do the sealing of the king. So we discovered this sealing of the king, which is mean it's closed from the time of King Tutankhamun, and it's first opened by Howard Carter.
But before we get into detail, of course, we're going to get into intricate detail of his belongings and how the treasures around him and how important is it and how they changed history later on. But let us talk about the mystery of his death. There were so many analyses about his death by archaeologists and Egyptologists and heritage researchers. Different stories were told. If you like to shed light over that.
When they doing the X-ray on the mummy of King Tutankhamun, they said many things. Maybe he was died because of kind of disease which is malaria, and some people said no, maybe he died in one of his battles.
He was only 16.
Yes, exactly.
So he fought battles when he was
exactly, and actually we have in the Museum of Civilization a chariot for King Tutankhamun, and on the chariot we have a remains of the blood of the enemies of Egypt in that time. So which has been, yes, he ruled a lot of battles. For that reason, it's still a mystery for us, King Tutankhamun. And also some people said maybe he died in one of his battles. Some other opinions said maybe he fell from one of his chariots, because we found a kind of missing in his skull. Maybe
a fracture?
Kind of, maybe. So and after that, people said no, this is a kind of process of mummification. Because when they want to take the brain out,
they suck it out of the brain.
Yes, they doing a kind of hole in the skull, so they take out of the brain. So we still have a lot of opinions. Some people said he have a kind of something wrong with his leg, because that reason we discovered in his tomb also a lot of sticks that he used.
Canes, you mean?
Yes, and long sticks he stand on that. And actually this sticks have a wonderful stories that all of them it's ended with the enemies of Egypt. So the king killed the enemies of Egypt, and he stand killing them when he stand on. So this is another kind of things that actually the text tell us the story about that. And and for that reason we didn't have.
But isn't that strange? Was he the only king back then that reigned in that age?
King Tutankhamun ruled in very important time of Egypt, which is the New Kingdom, and we called him the Boy King. The New Kingdom in general, we called it the Golden Age of Egypt. And if we look at the details of the Tutankhamun stories and his family and his life, a lot of things disappeared suddenly and appeared suddenly too. So we cannot, when we connect all of these things together, we discover something, but it still have something to to complete this story. For example, where is his mother disappeared, and why, especially when he became a king of Egypt. Nefertiti played a very strong role in the time also of King Tutankhamun. And also, if we are talking about his tomb, even his tomb, it's very small, because the king died in the young age. So some people said, and archaeologists suggest that this tomb actually was made for one of his viziers or his high officials, and because he died in young age, they bury the king in this tomb. So for that reason, inside his tomb, with the pharaohs discovered by Howard Carter, all of things is posting in missing way. It's not looked like that in other kings'
It was
tomb.
mysterious. The
Yes.
whole thing was mysterious. But the thing is that, was there another, I mean, was it normal that a king would reign at that time, at this age? I mean, was it common, or was he the only exception?
Actually, it happened before, but we have a kind of mothers or a queen who protect the throne till his child become in the suitable age to rule Egypt. So the mother in this time take the name of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, but all the people know that she took this title to protect the throne for her child or for her boy till he become in the suitable age and he can rule Egypt. Actually, Hatshepsut doing this with King Thutmose III too. The Hatshepsut, the mother of Khufu, also doing the same. We have a lot of stories, but not a king ruled from 7 age young. So this is here a kind also of something strange happened maybe in this time. Does the king clever enough to rule in the 7 age? Maybe yes. Maybe yes.
He was instructed by his mom.
His mom disappeared from the time of his ruling. And
she disappeared entirely?
Yeah, disappearing from the titles, disappearing
from the scene,
from the scenes itself. We didn't.
Who was instructing him? Who was his assistant?
His vizier, the persons from the temples, and also the high officials helped him a lot. The commanders of his army also. And when we are enter the tomb of King Tutankhamun, we will find we didn't have any scenes inside the tomb except in the burial chamber. And this burial chamber actually was made a kind of quick, maybe until the body of the king was mummified. It's take around 70 days, so they start to bend inside only the burial chamber, because this is the main chamber and the tomb, and the walls actually describe the journey of the dead king in the nether life. We have the book of Amidwat, another life, the journey of the king. It's take 12 hours till he reached to the destination after he passed the judgment of Osiris. And also we have a kind of an inscription and scenes inside the tomb showing a kind of festivals here in Egypt in the time of King Tutankhamun. Talking about the festivals, the avenue of the Sphinx that opened and this year actually, we have the scenes and the songs from this, the hieroglyphic songs from in this festival actually was taken from the chamber of and the shrines of King Tutankhamun.
You mean the lyrics of the hieroglyphic
relics?
The lyrics of the song. But what about the melodies?
About?
The melodies, I mean the music.
The music.
Was it the composition of the music was also by that?
Actually, we discovered a lot of musical instruments in the ancient Egyptian time. a lot. We discovered the harp, we discovered the ney, we discovered drums, we discovered also in the tomb of Tutankhamun, we discovered a kind of sister. It's like something to make a different sound in the music instruments. So we discovered a lot of this. That the ancient Egyptian play a music, yes, they play music, and the researcher and nowadays they try to take the sounds from the ancient objects and display this sound on the modern one. But it's not taken, in the festival, it's not taken from the ancient Egyptian, only the lyrics and the words which is taken from the ancient.
But the music is not by them.
Yes, yes,
it's
the
new.
music is new.
Yeah. Going back to the life of that boy king, they
Yes.
called him the boy
Yes,
king.
we call them.
He was, I guess that is a British title that was given to him. I mean, by
Yeah,
some of the historians,
yeah, yes, exactly.
the Britons. But going back to his life, how was his life? I mean, was it a very flourishing time in Egypt that he ruled? The time of his reign, was it really very effective? I mean, we would like to reflect to the viewers that history of that little young man.
We know any history of the king from his legacy, from his treasure actually. So King Tutankhamun ruled in sophisticated reign in Egypt. Some archaeologists said he was in a co-regency with his father King Akhenaten, and they ruled Egypt together. When we say they ruled Egypt together, maybe for that reason he actually gained a lot of experience about ruling, so he ruled Egypt in that time. But talking about his life and how we called him one of the richest kings in that time, because we discovered a lot of objects that made completely from gold. Like we have a lot of things, like we have agreed shrines. We have actually 4 shrines. Inside those 4 shrines we have 3 coffins, and inside the 3 coffins we have the mummy, and inside the mummy we have a lot of necklaces, a lot of golden belts. Even he have actually a golden fingers in his mummy. He have a golden fingers also on his feet, and the golden mask on the mummy. So all of that.
Was he disabled?
And we said maybe a kind of because of the stacks we found, but in the mummy we see a kind of problem with his leg, but maybe he can walk easily. For that reason, this is also one of the reasons how he died. And all of these made from wood and gilded by gold. So when you stand in front of a big shrine, it's very high and it's very deep, and each shrine have a shrine inside, have a shrine like a Russian dolls that have, actually this is ancient Egyptian innovation from
You're
the
talking
time.
about the
Yes,
where
the
he kept
the mummy
the treasures?
itself.
The
Yes,
mummy?
the mummy. The mummy kept inside 4 shrine. Inside the 4 shrine we have 3 coffin. Inside the 3 coffin we have the mummy and the golden mask and other things.
And when they revealed it, they saw the mummy?
Yes, when they moved all of this, for that reason, the discovery of the tomb of King Tutankhamun take a long process. And what it's doing by Howard Carter, and this is very good, he draw and he take a photo for each step when he moving everything, and it's appeared in all the pictures, the Egyptian workers who work with Howard Carter actually. So this is very, very, very important rule from the Egyptian workers, because all the spotlight on Howard Carter, who is the one who's discovered the tomb of King Tutankhamun, but actually Egyptian doing a great role in that. And this is only the thing we discovered in tomb of King Tutankhamun. Actually, no, we discovered a lot of the clothes, sandals, shoes, socks, and also we discovered a lot of necklaces, amulets, food, strange animal, as Howard Carter actually mentioned.
Strange animals?
Strange animals.
You mean
Mummified,
strange species of animals?
kind of, and when they are showing Anubis, the jackal, for the first time in the tomb of King Tutankhamun, and also mummified food, which is mean the king, when he bury himself, he want to talk everything in his life with him to the nether life. So you find actually mummified food inside the tomb of King Tutankhamun. A lot of chariots, and we discovered also the shrine for the canopic jars. After the mummified process, they removed all the organs inside the body, and they put it in something called canopic jars. Actually, it's called canopic jars because the first time of discovering this, one of the branches of the Nile River in the old time, and this branch is called canopic. So they call the canopic according to this branch. So we find the canopic jar of King Tutankhamun inside also a shrine protected by the goddesses in ancient Egypt, and it was made from gold. So a lot of gold in that time, which is mean that that king in this time, he's very famous, and the people loved him, and the economy in that time is very, very high in Egypt, because also we entered
there was a renaissance.
Yes.
But then the idea of mummification is also worth it to reflect it. I mean, we can't just talk about the death of any king or any pharaoh without talking or stopping to talk about the mummification. Mummification, until the moment we're talking about, nobody could even be able to discover the secret of mummification. How did the ancient Egyptians do it? Until this very moment, it's a science that nobody worldwide could even think about. But at the same time, how did they think of sucking a skull from the brains and expect that in reincarnation it's going to come back to life with no brains? I mean, they're keeping the food, they're keeping the jewelry, the favorite books, everything, his hobbies and his pets, his animals that he used to love and everything. And at the same time, he has no brains. I mean, how did they think?
Because the thing they are thought in ancient Egypt, the most important items in the body is actually the heart. So the heart.
So that's an important point.
Yes.
That's why I asked that question.
The heart is included everything he does in his life, even bad, even good, even something. For that reason, when we found the judgment scene in the skull, we have two places, one of them for the heart and one of them for the feather. Why especially the feather? Because this is the most, I think, we can describe for the people. So if his heart is full of good things and good news and good everything, it will pass easily during the nether world. As we mentioned, the first thing they want to do in his burial chamber, the amidwat, the life or the journey of the deceased in the nether life. So they didn't want the brain. Actually, they focusing in two important things. They focusing on the body, and actually the other thing, they focusing on the name of the king. So when they are because
so the heart was kept inside the mummy.
Exactly.
And
Kept inside. Why when people said why they removing all the organs except the heart? Because heart actually is a muscle. It's not a bloody thing. So it will be kept for a long time, not like other organs in the body.
But that also reflects something, don't you know? It reflects how sophisticated and well-educated and developed they were. And even, I mean, they were surpassing even the time we're living. I mean, only at the new millennium, or I mean on the 20th century, 19th century, did people discover that the organs of the body and started studying medicine and everything. But at the same time, those 7,000 years ago or more, and they knew all those things?
Yes, because they developed actually in everything. In medicine, they discovered a lot of, we have a papyri that talking about different kind of disease appeared in Egypt. So which is mean they have a lot of knowledge about it. This also dating back to the how they know the process of mummification. Actually, we discovered a lot of from the process of mummification. People try during the searches to doing their efforts to discover different materials actually they used to keep the body for all of these long years. In the ancient time, when the Greeks start to enter Egypt, one of the secrets they didn't want to tell anybody about this, the secret of mummification. So the one whose work in mummification, he tell for his son, and his son kept this information only for himself because he will take the lead for this job from his father. So also that means the ancient Egyptians want to save their legacy for themselves. They want to save their secrets, not to tell anyone about this secrets, because this is a kind also of heritage. When I learn my son something related to my country, it's not for to learn other country or to learn other people from different
to spread it around.
Exactly. We actually doing a lot of things related to the education for all the people around the world from the ancient Egyptian time, but we still keep a kind of secrets for ourselves.
Of
One
course.
of them, the mummification.
But the mummification is a very huge, and it's a grave significance of the knowledge of ancient Egyptians.
Yes.
That until this very moment, nobody could even compete with it.
Exactly.
I mean, having all that knowledge with the body parts and the organs inside the body, and keeping a mummy and keeping a body for almost more than 7,000 years old and in its intact situation is almost a miracle.
Yes, actually, because also when we are talking about the process of mummification, it's take a time according to the person itself. So if it's a king, it's take around 70 days. It's if one of the high official or ordinary people, it's take from 30 to 40 days. For that reason, we have here in Egypt the tradition that it's nothing like that in all the world. That when we said after anybody dead, we have a 40 days for him. We should visit his tomb and just talking about him. This is originally from the ancient Egyptian time, because they take the mummy from the mummification place to in the procession way to the tomb after 40 days of the death of this body. So this is also a heritage ritual taken from
but
ancient
40
Egyptian
days,
time.
it's not going to deceive.
Yes. After the mummification or the mummification
I mean the body
process,
itself.
the body
During the
itself,
40 days, we call it the body.
yes,
It is still a body.
it's still a body.
So what happens to the body in 40 days? It won't,
The process
a lot
of
will happen.
the process
it's
of
going to
mummification,
decay.
actually, yes, they removed all the organs and they covered the body with natron salt to observe all the moisture and water from the body. It's covered, and then they removed they remove the natron salt. They fill the body with sawdust and the kind of materials that give a kind of smell, good smell, and then they warp the body. So all of these processes take a long time. When they left the body in the natron salt for the long time, that means the body will be well preserved for the long time. So for that reason, so the process itself take a lot of money. So only the kings actually stayed for 70 days. But all the people, the high officials, the people who also can have a kind of money, they left the body inside the mummification place till 40 days. So they take the body and the procession way to his tomb and they bury them, and that's it.
Right, we only have like 1 or 2 minutes left. We need to wrap it up on this huge event, let me call it, I mean, celebrating 100 years of Tutankhamun. The significance of that particular event to Egypt, I mean, in the sense of attracting tourists worldwide, I mean, the event itself, how important is it to Egypt?
This is important not only for Egypt, this is important for all the world, because the heritage is the heritage for all the world. So celebrating for a kind of, it's a kind of just to bring back what Egypt in the old time and what Egypt is now. So till this moment we cannot understand how they made, the ancient Egyptian people, how they made the golden mask of the King Tutankhamun. People, they use the laser, they use the kind of polishing thing, because this is a mysterious for us. This is completely made from gold, so will have a very, very tiny details that if we need to make a kind of this, we need a huge technology to doing something like this golden mask. And for after the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, for the first time, all the treasure of King Tutankhamun will be in the same place from the time of the opening and discovering his tomb. So that's also reback that we need to read more about the ancient Egyptian life and the real books, and how the archaeologists who really talk about the ancient Egyptian and their legacy, and with a right information, because a lot of people now tell something not good about the ancient Egyptian. They didn't read well, but the ancient history of Egypt will not be ended forever.
On this note, of course, Rana Ehab, the heritage researcher and historian, would like to thank you so much, Rana, as usual. It has been a pleasure having you here in Winters and Current Affairs. And you have a beautiful night. And I guess this brings us to the end of this edition of Winters and Current Affairs. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again next week. That's a goodbye.